Yes, good morning to you. How are you? Hope you're well. Good stuff. A glorious morning here in South Manchester at the Therichieallenshow Towers. What time is it? Coming up for 11 a.m. We're live. It's Sunday, February 5th, 2017. Lots to get through in Sunday View. As usual, going to give you the contact details. You can tweet at Richie Allen Show, email richie@richieallen.co.uk. If there's something in the Sunday papers you'd like to comment on, or you'd like a comment from me on, simply tweet at Richie Allen Show. It's quick, it's instant, and I'll read those tweets out as soon as they come in.
For critical information ignored by the mainstream media, log on to davidicke.com/headlines now.
Broadcasting live from the great city of Manchester, England. This is the Richie Allen Show on davidicke.com.
Indeed it is. Good weekend thus far. It's been a lovely weekend, in fact, chilling out. Put a dartboard up in the old house here. I've always been a fan of darts. It's been a few years since I played. And just for a bit of kind of stress relieving, put a dartboard up and been throwing darts and chilling out. I know. It must be an age thing. So it's been a nice weekend. Weather's lovely. It's a glorious morning here in South Manchester. They're saying it's going to get very cold in the coming few days. They are the BBC, and the BBC's meteorological correspondents are saying we better watch out. It's going to get cold. It's going to get damn cold, apparently. Damn cold. So I hope you're well. I hope you're having a good weekend yourself. And thanks for joining me this Sunday. Always good to have your company. So what I'll do is, as usual, I'll go through the front pages of the Sunday newspapers today. That's the British tabloids and broadsheets, of course. We'll have a look at some of the stories and pick up on one or two of those stories and look at one or two of the bigger things from last week. But I'm going to talk terrorism a bit later on. As you'll know by now, there was an incident at the Louvre Museum. I can never say that. It's the Louvre. The Louvre Museum in Paris on Friday. Startling in its weirdness, I think. I think it's fair to say that. Talk about that a little bit later on. Got to mention again, stay in touch with davidicke.com/headlines. Lot about the stories I'm talking about today. In-depth coverage of those stories at davidicke.com. And we are broadcasting, of course, live this morning on Fab Radio 2 in Manchester and via the TuneIn app. And I must say I'm looking forward to being back on richieallen.co.uk sometime around the middle of this coming week. Our great friend Aaron Calland, who snowed under with other work, has agreed in his spare time to put the Richie Allen website back together. And of course he'll be looked after for that. But I'm delighted he's doing it. It's good, because it's something I can't do. Never say never. Why can't you do it, Richie? I'll tell you what I did do. I'll give you a laugh. I've never been more proud, ever in my life. It's well known amongst those who know me intimately that I've never been much of a handyman. I've never learned how to hang a door, for example, or to paint properly. There's not much to painting. There is plenty to painting. There is lots to painting a room properly, painting doors, all of that. I've never done anything like that. Never put a nail in a wall to hang a photograph. I've always been useless in terms of DIY. Really crap. Well, Thursday day, just before I came on air on Thursday, our kitchen sink had a big blockage. So we got the Drano and we got the other stuff and put it down, but it didn't work. Nothing was working. I reached for the yellow pages the online yellow pages, and I thought, I'm going to ring somebody who knows. And then a monumental degree of shame came over me. And I went to myself, why don't you, for the first time in your life, try to fix it yourself? So under the sink I went with a pair of yellow rubber gloves, very fetching. I looked and unscrewed a few things. Yes, about a half a gallon of water came down on top of me, but I took apart the joints of the pipe. I found the blockage, I took it out, I reconnected the sink, and I didn't spend 40 quid calling a plumber. Now that's nothing to most people. I was absolutely made up over the weekend, the fact I did that. So I'm looking around now to see is there other things I can do. I am absolutely crap when it comes to that, and even technical things here at the radio studio. I give Paul Ripley a call, but I was absolutely thrilled with myself to be able to do it. A small, insignificant thing, but I did it. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move right on. davidicke.com/headlines. So we'll look at the Sunday newspapers then. Excuse me, we'll start off with the Sunday Telegraph. The headline, damning verdict on Iraq troops witch hunt. Damning verdict on Iraq troops witch hunt. So the Sunday Telegraph is basically having a pop at the officials from the Ministry of Defence, okay, and reporting that MPs are going to blame a rotten core of civil servants for allowing British soldiers to be hounded by false claims of abuse dating from the Iraq War. So this story in the Sunday Telegraph is based on a parliamentary inquiry which hasn't yet published. It's not published yet. The Telegraph says or expects the report to condemn the activities of the government's inquiry itself and call for it to be shut down immediately. Now, the Iraq Historic Allegations Team, or IHAT for short, they've been saying that they handle their investigations with sensitivity. The Telegraph is saying, in fact, it's a grotesque charade, sticking up for the soldiers, for the armed forces, the Telegraph. Now, you know what I think about this, and I'm sure you'll have an opinion as well. Any soldier or any commanding officer who ordered a soldier to commit any crime at all, war crimes or abusing civilians and detainees in Iraq or anywhere else, should be charged and given a fair trial. These inquiries, you see, there are laws, there are international laws governing the conduct of military forces. If there's proof that an Iraqi civilian was beaten, was tortured or raped by a British soldier or any other soldier, he or she should be brought to account for that. Now, Veterans for Peace and other veteran organisations are making the point that inquiries like this are silly at a time when the government is selling billions of pounds worth of arms to Saudi Arabia to commit war crimes. Fair enough, I agree with the various veterans organisations. I agree with them wholeheartedly. And not trying to get on the good side of former members of the armed forces, but I always look to the commanding officers anyway. You know, we talk about the My Lai massacre in Vietnam. We look at other atrocities over the years. Yes, look, I understand conscientious objection. I understand the onus being on the individual to say, I'm not going to follow that order. But when you see how through basic training all of the humanity is beaten out of, not physically beaten, excuse me, but psychologically beaten out of the young soldiers. And what's instilled in the vacuum, when all the morals are driven out of them, is this unquestioning obedience to authority. So I'd love to see the officers, to be honest. You know, I mean, I remember reporting on Lindy England. Do you remember Lindy? I'm sure you remember Lindy England. She went to prison she was in the picture holding an Iraqi detainee on a leash at Abu Ghraib. There was another guy called Charles something or other. And they were hung out to dry by the media and by their superior officers and went to prison for abusing Iraqi detainees. But who told them to do it? No officers, you see. No commanding officers were ever taken into account for that. That's my opinion on that anyway. Sunday Times, the headline is, revealed the huge gaps in UK defences. A couple of military stories today in the Telegraph and the Times. Sunday Times revealed the huge gaps in UK defences. Basically, the Ministry of Defence is under attack. The Sunday Times is saying that equipment failures and bungled procurement deals have left big holes in Britain's defences. We're not safe. We're not safe, dear listener. So they give a few examples, right? They say that the Royal Navy's new Type 45 destroyers are very noisy. They're so noisy, they can be detected by Russian submarines 100 miles away. They are so noisy, they can be heard by senior citizens in old folks' homes in Nova Scotia. No, I made that one up. So they're noisy. They say that this is a disaster, and they say that we're not safe because of it. Now, the Ministry of Defence have replied and said that we're focused on delivering the equipment needed to keep Britain safe. There's a big funding row here. Big funding row. Lovely, eh? We'd better allocate a few more £1 billion to defence. I mean, what I would do there is I would cut disability benefit even more. Fuck the disabled. That's what I do. To hell with the disabled. If you're in a wheelchair, you don't matter a damn. It's more important that we build big, massive ships that are not noisy. That's a good idea, that, isn't it? And of course, that's what's going to happen. If you've just tuned in and you've never heard the programme before, I was being sarcastic, by the way. Of course, we don't want disability benefit to be cut, but that's what's going to happen. Amongst other things, because we got to shore up the army. Now, the Sun on Sunday, always money. What has David said for years? Always money for war, eh? Always money. But when we need a hospital somewhere, or we need to give some money to some folks who can't go out to work because they've got injuries or they're disabled, no, we're broke. We're broke. The Sun on Sunday reports, now we're going to talk about this in a minute, this travel ban, because there's been a development in the last couple of hours. I'm sure you know this, but I'll tell you anyway. There's been a development. Trump has lost his appeal. We'll come to that in a minute. The Sun on Sunday reports that Johnson Bahari, do you remember Johnson Bahari? He's a black guy. He was awarded I'm saying he's a black guy so you might be able to picture him. He was awarded the Victoria Cross for heroism in Iraq. He was apparently detained and delayed and questioned at JFK Airport in New York City by officials enforcing Trump's travel ban. So the Sun on Sunday are saying this is a disgrace. He was going to a charity event for war veterans, and he thinks, Johnson Bahari, that because his passport has got an Iraq stamp there, that aroused suspicions amongst the what are they called? What are they called again? Oh Jesus. It's been a long weekend. You know, the airport security people. I know you're going to educate me on Twitter, yeah. So anyway, he basically reckons the stamp in the passport caused him to be delayed. He missed the fundraising show because of the delay. If I was him, I'd be rightly cheesed off as well. But anyway. So the Mail on Sunday goes with a bit of sex. We love a bit of sex. We miss sex stories on the front pages of our Sunday tabloids. But this one might be serious. It might have implications for Nigel Farage. The story says Farage's live-in lady and the £400,000 UKIP bung. Love the sound of this. The entire front page of the Sunday Mail and 2 pages in the middle, well, not in the middle, pages 2 and 3, are devoted to their claims that Nigel Farage, the former UKIP leader and now best buddy of Donald Trump, is actually sharing a house in West London with a French politician described by the Sunday Mail as glamorous and foxy. Foxy. Laura Ferrari, who moved in with Farage last week, actually heads up, wait for this, a Eurosceptic think tank, which has been accused of diverting EU funding to UKIP before the general election and the referendum. So there's a stink of corruption here. Well, the Mail on Sunday says there is anyway, right? This French woman has moved in with Nigel, Foxy. Eurosceptic think tank, she heads this up. That had been given funding, but some of the funding has been diverted to UKIP, according to the Mail. Now, Nigel Farage's comment to this story, his response is quite wonderful. It's quite wonderful. It does evoke the memory of days gone by, the Sunday world in Ireland, the news of the world over here. Nigel says, I'm simply helping Miss Ferrari with somewhere to stay. They both deny having an affair. And Farage also denies any financial wrongdoing. But this is a big story, because the claims made by the Mail are serious. And I'm sure we're going to hear more about this in the next couple of days. I'm just helping her with somewhere to stay, says Nigel. Lovely young French woman. And I know a lot about lovely young French women. That's an interesting story. In the interest of libel, I won't be saying anything else. We'll find out, I suppose, whether there's any real truth in it in the coming days. Keep the tweets coming in at Richie Allen Show, Richie at richieallen.co.uk. There's plenty of tweets already, I do believe. So let me have a look at some of them. The TSA. It's the TSA. Thank you, Stephen Lash. Thank you, Sue, Starlight Lady. Thank you, Spirit Samba. The TSA, that's right. The Transport Something Authority, isn't it? I'm terrible. It's the weekend. Everything shuts down, including my brain at the weekend. Thank God I have brainy listeners. Kate Coley tweets, why do we still have the household cavalry? If we need funds, we could get rid of those posh tossers. Yes, Kate. I love it. Why don't we get rid of the household cavalry? Get rid of those posh tossers. We could save a few bob. Good stuff. Paul tweets, good morning. You did well with the DIY, mate. The evil money, the varying elite has nothing on plumbers. Yeah, plumbers and carpenters, they can take your trousers down when you do call them. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. Hi to Jim Dale. You're going round the U-bend, lad, says Jim Dale. I am, Jim. Very happy with myself, though. Very happy. Keep the tweets coming in at Richie Allen Show, Richie at richieallen.co.uk. Trevor Sayer says, how do I see all the tweets? Well, if you put Richie Allen Show in Twitter, all one word, no spaces, Richie Allen Show, press enter, you can see what others are tweeting and you can engage with them. Sunday morning, we don't have the free-for-all that we have in the live radio show in the week, but we still get plenty of tweets, plenty of people you can engage with there. Alrighty, let's move on then. What did we just do there? The Sun on Sunday, Johnson Bihari. Johnson Bihari? Did we do that? The Mail on... So we left it there, the Mail on Sunday. Right, 17 minutes past the hour. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a very quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk travel ban in the United States. And hopefully, we'll have a different slant on it than the one you're getting in the mainstream media to keep you interested, because I know you get overwhelmed by the same story over and over again. But we have a different take on it. Back in a minute.
Do not risk putting another pound in your bank account until you've heard this message. It's Jim Rickards here, best-selling author of Currency Wars and The Death of Money. But today I'm urging you to claim a free copy of my brand new book, The Road to Ruin. Visit theroadtoruin.co.uk for full details now. Inside, I uncover the financial elite's secret ICE-9 plan to take full control of your hard-earned cash. To see how, visit theroadtoruin.co.uk right away. It's not too late to prepare. Claim your free copy at theroadtoruin.co.uk today.
Looking to arrange a mortgage? Confused by all the deals available? Let Manchester Mortgages do the work for you. Take advantage of our free mortgage review offer throughout February and March and see if we can save you money. We are whole of market brokers with access to hundreds of mortgage schemes across the UK. Call us on 0161 706 0242 or go to manchestermortgages.co.uk. Your home may be repossessed if you do not keep up repayments on your mortgage. Manchester Mortgages are a trading style of Mortgages for You North West Limited, who are authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority.
There's a place high in the mountains of Spain, a sanctuary where souls gather from all around the globe to learn about themselves and experience powerful changes in the way we see our world. They become awakened to their gifts and their power to heal others. Become part of this ever-growing worldwide family of unique, pure energy healing practitioners. Discover how amazing you truly are. Go to www.markbayerski.com. It could just change your life forever.
Broadcasting the information the mainstream media won't touch. This is The Richie Allen Show in association with DavidIke.com.
For Sunday, the 5th of February, that's right, 2017. My name is Richie Allen. Thanks for the tweets thus far. Good to hear from you this Sunday. It really is. It always is. Now, you'll know by now that the US Justice Department filed a court motion against the suspension of President Trump's travel ban on people from 7 mainly Muslim nations. On Friday, a federal judge basically ruled that Trump couldn't proceed with this ban. Now, the US Justice Department filed a motion against it, and I can tell you that 2 hours ago, they lost that appeal. So the suspension on Trump's travel ban holds for now anyway. So if you're not familiar with the story, and I'm sure you are, visa holders from these 7 countries were left in limbo in some cases, weren't able to leave their own countries or countries where they'd stopped off en route to the US. You know all of that. Now, since the suspension of the travel ban by the federal judge, visa holders from these nations have been scrambling to get flights to the US, thinking that they might only have a short window. When Trump announced the ban last week, you will remember, there were protests everywhere. All over the US, there was confusion at US airports, there were protests there, and there were big protests in Europe and massive protests in the UK. Now, those protests continued on Saturday in Washington, in Miami, and in a number of European capitals, again, including London. Trump's supporters, it must be said, also staged their own counter-protests. So a lot of people are out protesting. 60,000 visas have been revoked, apparently, since Trump issued this executive order. James Robart was a federal judge, and on Friday he put a restraining order halting the visa ban with immediate effect. Like I said, this has been challenged by Trump and his team, but by the Justice Department, but they've lost. Trump said the judge's ruling was ridiculous and said that he would restore the ban. But like I said, the US Appeals Court rejected the Trump administration's request to reinstate the ban 2 hours ago. They must have been working all night, working through the night to deal with this latest challenge. Mike Pence, of course, is Trump's vice president. Yesterday, he spoke to ABC's George Stephanopoulos. Do you remember Stephanopoulos and Bill Clinton? So Mike Pence spoke to ABC's George Stephanopoulos yesterday. This is worth a listen.
The president is vowing to overturn that order. This morning he called it a ridiculous order from a so-called judge. So-called judge. Is it appropriate for the president to be questioning the legitimacy of a federal judge in that way?
President Trump's made it clear that our administration is going to put the safety and security of the American people first. And the executive order that he put into effect was legal, it was appropriate, and our administration is going to be using all legal means at our disposal to challenge the judge's order.
But is it right for the president to say so-called judge? Doesn't that undermine the separation of powers in the Constitution written right next door?
Well, I don't think it does. I think the American people are very accustomed to this president speaking his mind and speaking very straight with them, and it's very frustrating when scholars on the left and the right, people as distinguished as Jonathan Turley of George Washington University, have said while he doesn't agree with the executive order, he recognizes the president has the full authority to put the security of the homeland first in determining who comes into this country. But to see a judge actually suspend that order across the country, George, is frustrating all of us.
This is a judge who was nominated by President Bush, 99-0, confirmed. How is he a so-called judge?
Well, again, we face a dangerous enemy, inspiring people to come into this country, and frankly, inspiring people who are already in this country. And the president is determined to use the authority that he has under the Constitution and under the law, but we'll work through the courts to challenge them.
But doesn't this judge have the authority to do what he did as well?
He certainly does, and that's why the administration is complying with that order as we speak. And we'll go through the process in the courts to get a stay of that order so that, again, we can implement this action that is entirely focused on the safety and security of the American people. Look, we've got to do things differently.
Now, Washington State's attorney, in fact, Washington State Attorney General, a guy called Bob Ferguson, he said, no matter what, Trump must honor the ruling.
It's obviously a historic decision and an important one for the rule of law and for the people of the state of Washington and the people of our country. I said from the beginning, it is not the loudest voice that prevails in a courtroom. It's the Constitution. And that's what we heard from Judge Robart today. We're a nation of laws. It is absolutely my expectation that the federal government will honor this ruling by this judge today. Not everybody may like this decision. I'm certain the president will not like this decision. But it is his job, it is his responsibility, it is his obligation as our president to honor it. And I'll make sure he does.
You know, we say all the time on shows like this, it's all a circus. The idea of democracy is a circus, it's a joke. There is no democracy. But it's still extraordinary to see things like the tweet Trump tweeted over the weekend. He tweeted, word for word, the judge opens up our country to potential terrorists and others that do not have our best interests at heart. Bad people are very happy. That was Trump's extraordinary tweet. You know, if you leave all the inflammatory rhetoric, the hateful rhetoric from people on both sides of everything, and look at it dispassionately, you could make an argument that Trump has actually endangered the safety of a federal judge. And I don't think that's an exaggeration either. Not that don't confuse that with me endorsing the federal judiciary system or any of that. I'm not. I'm just saying it's incredible. And here's what I think it is. And again, this is not going to go down well with the Trump supporters who, no matter what he does or says, will embrace him, it seems, even more. It's a coup, isn't it? It's a kind of a coup of sorts. If Trump was to get his way overturning the judiciary, remember, he's already overturned the Supreme Court. These institutions that are supposed to prevent tyranny. And I know you're groaning and you're saying they don't, Richie, they don't. But remember, that's what they were set up to do. Even if they give the illusion of being there to protect the property, the persons, the safety of, and the rights of American people. Even if it's only an illusion, that's what they're there for. But what Trump has been doing, and David alluded to this on davidicke.com headlines, is with the stroke of a pen here and there, Trump and his advisors are turning the United States into an autocracy. Aren't they? Well, it was already. All right. I hear you loud and clear. I can hear you arguing against what I'm saying. But they're making it official, is what I'm saying. And if you add to that Trump's attitude towards the media, now again, I know how bad the media are, but for Trump to say they can't question me, I won't answer them, these people are fake news, and Fox News is the only interview I'm going to give this weekend, basically because Fox have been supportive of me. That's an autocracy. But for a bit of balance on it, and I like a bit of balance, and like I've said before, the media is absolutely dreadful. Here's RT with a good report yesterday, in fact, yesterday afternoon, on some of the more unsavoury media attacks on Trump, the sorts of things which I certainly wouldn't endorse. Listen to this. This is a good report.
Adding fuel to the current flames are media outlets with their portrayals of the new president. Ever since what many saw as his surprise election victory, Trump's image has dominated front pages and not exactly in a positive light. Germany's Der Spiegel, for example, picked this picture for its February cover. It depicts Trump beheading the Statue of Liberty ISIL style. The Irish publication Village sparked outrage after it pondered whether the US president should be assassinated. Its cover showing him in the crosshairs of a gun. We got reaction from media and legal analyst Lionel, as well as political satirist Tim Young.
I am shocked. I mean, I understood bad taste, journalistic freedom, but when you have the active, not only the glorification and the suggestion, but the mockery, the comic joy that seems to take place over the notion of our president, my president, the 45th president being assassinated, it defies all logic. What this is a part of, I guess an extension of, this crowd and herd mentality, this psychotic scrum, where people, I guess, are trying to outdo the competitor. And the question is, where does it end?
Where does it end is right now. Lionel has been on the Richie Allen show a few times in the past. He's a really good guy, and he makes a good point. We don't have anywhere in the media, and we used to have it in the independent media. In the independent media, we used to have, I like to think, rational discourse. we used to have reasoned debate about things, about issues, about things that happened or didn't happen. We don't have that anymore now. You know, the independent media it doesn't exist anymore, not as an entity anyway. There are pockets of media, there are things, there are shows, there are websites doing terrific work, but they're few and far between. Most of the independent media is now the Truther industrial complex. Incidentally, speaking of that, I got a lovely email from a woman called Dawn the other day, and she said, Richie, you didn't come up with the term Truther industrial complex. She sent me an email, a link to an article written in a mainstream magazine about 4 years ago, where a guy was being critical of independent media organisations and clickbait sites, and in the article the term Truther industrial complex was used. So it's not mine. So it must be subconscious plagiarism. But because I used it last summer at some stage, I used it around Christmas time as well. It was in my mind all the time. All of these organisations, all of these truthers, in it for a buck and nothing else. But apparently the term has been around a couple of years. I didn't realise that. But anyway, so that's what you have in the independent media. You have this flat, inflammatory, hateful rhetoric all the time. You see it when you put videos up about anything. You see it on YouTube. And ironically, what we're beginning to see, and I don't really monitor the comments on our YouTube channel, a lot of the negative stuff is actually coming from other content creators. Would you believe that? Would you believe that? It actually is. A lot of the hateful, inflammatory, almost violent rhetoric is actually coming from other content creators, not from cowardly trolls, of which there are plenty. So the Spiegel article and the Irish Magazine article, the Irish one depicting Trump being assassinated with the crosshairs on his temple, that's disgraceful. It has no place in journalism. A bit of balance, you know, absolutely. How could you condone that? I wouldn't condone it if I worked for one of those newspapers or magazines. But it has to be said again and again and again. The countries in question, Germany and the Republic of Ireland, have press regulators. Trump can complain if he wants to. And I'm absolutely sure if Trump was to complain about a magazine depicting him being assassinated, I'm sure his complaint would be upheld. 27 minutes to the top of the hour. Back to the travel ban. You know, I was thinking today, and I just said that Trump is bringing in an autocracy, an official autocracy in the United States. How long before a travel ban on US citizens? How long? Oh, you're going over the top. I'm not going over. Think about that. If you can say, well, there's 7 countries where Islam is the predominant faith, you can't come into our country. How long before that becomes, at the very beginning, Muslim Americans, Islamic Americans, you're not allowed to travel to these countries? How long before Americans are banned from travelling to listed countries? How long? And everybody will cheer, and all the idiots on the alternative right news, truth or industrial complex circuit will cheer that. That's brilliant, that, until it becomes them. Oh, by the way, you're not allowed to travel to Iran. Alex Jones or Paul Watson or Michael Rivero, Michael's a friend, or any of these people, Maria Heller, another friend. You can't go here. You can't go there. Terrorists. You can't go to Gaza because there's terrorists there. We're doing it for your own safety. How long before that happens? And like I said, the more Trump proves he's just another in a long line of Rothschild bank or Wall Street puppets, the more his supporters scream abuse at those who point it out. Sad people. I'm going to get a prosecutor to look into your situation. I'm not going to hurt them. They're nice people. He's going to leave NATO. He's not. He told Theresa May he's committed to it 100%. He wants to put the US Embassy in Jerusalem. He's put nearly a dozen Goldman Sachs and Rothschild good old boys in his administration. He wants to repeal the Dodd-Frank legislation. The US response to the too big to fail banks. Now don't get me started on that. We could be here all day long. Listen, I know But at least it was an attempt to do something. Or, at least in the eyes of the people anyway, it was an attempt to do something about the reckless criminal behaviour by the biggest banks on Wall Street. Trump wants to roll it back. He's a Rothschild banker, Wall Street puppet. That's all he is. And then you have the new sanctions on Iran. You know, and we think on this programme, that's a serious, massive issue going forward, that. Through the media, again, the lunacy of this presidency. Why do you keep saying that, Richie? You don't believe in it anyway. No, I don't. But it's never been so blatant. The madness of it all. The theatre of it all. Trump announced sanctions on Iran through the media because the Iranians tested a missile. Now, RT spoke with Bill Richardson. He's a former New Mexico governor and a former UN ambassador. He's also a Rothschild Zionist, so no surprise that he's happy with the sanctions on Iran.
I think the Trump administration is correct to put Iran on notice. A new sheriff in town. There is a violation using the ballistic missile test of UN Security Council sanctions, not necessarily the Iran deal with the U.S. However, it does say to Iran, look, you know, your behavior is unacceptable. In my view, the Iran nuclear deal the Obama administration negotiated is good. But they should have gone a little further and dealt with Iran's ties to terrorism. There's an American there, Robert Levinson, that everyone's forgotten, that should be released. There's all kinds of other activities where they're messing around in the neighborhood, these ballistic missile tests. So I think the message was a good one to lay down a marker without any unspecified response. I think that was good. What I didn't like it was, you know, once again, General Flynn talking partisan. The Obama administration made a terrible mistake. This campaign is over. This is now straight national security, foreign policy. Leave old bedsides alone. But at the same time, they have a right to say that. I hope there's now a diplomatic channel that's open. I see the Secretary of State has now been confirmed. A dialogue is needed between the foreign ministers of Iran and the United States. Let's proceed carefully. Sanctions, I think, are appropriate, but let's not get into headlong into a military altercation before approving and looking at soft power diplomacy, sanctions, and other measures.
Yeah, Netanyahu's puppets, all of them. Israel wants a conflict with Iran. It does. Trump is their man. He's the Rothschild president. He's only been in the job a fortnight, and he's stirring things up with a country that hasn't attacked another in 300 years. And at times, when you hear some of the things coming out of Trump's mouth, and I acknowledge this, you see, because I admit not everything is black and white. When you hear stuff coming out of Trump's mouth, you imagine the American people are victims of almost like domestic abuse. You know, the way men or women beat their partners and beat them and beat them and beat them and then tell them they love them and put their arms around them and tell them they're marvellous. And with Trump supporters, there's a bit of that going on. Because there's Trump, you know, bowing down to the Zionists. But then he'll go on a show with Bill O'Reilly and he'll say something and it's exactly what you would want to hear, or I would want to hear even. Now, a Trump interview with Bill O'Reilly is going to air before the Super Bowl later on. Little snippets of it have made the news already. So here's a clip from this interview, which won't air in full until just before the Super Bowl. It's Trump with Fox News' Bill O'Reilly. O'Reilly asks him about Vladimir Putin.
Do you respect Putin?
I do respect him.
Do you? Why?
Well, I respect a lot of people, but that doesn't mean I'm going to get along with him. He's a leader of his country. I say it's better to get along with Russia than not. And if Russia helps us in the fight against ISIS, which is a major fight, and Islamic terrorism all over the world,
right?
Major fight, that's a good thing. Will I get along with him? I have no idea. It's very
He's a
possible
killer,
I
though.
won't.
Putin's a killer.
A lot of killers. We got a lot of killers. Why, you think our country's so innocent?
That's extraordinary, isn't it? Putin is a killer, said O'Reilly. Now, is he? I don't like Putin. I don't like oligarchs. I don't like people like him. I know he was a KGB agent. I know he's suspected to have been involved in the deaths of people here in London and elsewhere. I'm not saying he isn't. I don't know. But Trump says a lot of people are killers. We're not innocent. This is extraordinary stuff.
A lot of killers. We got a lot of killers. Why, you think our country's so innocent?
Amazing, right? It's like the battered wife or battered husband syndrome. I want to ramp up issues with Iran. I want to tear down the agreement with Iran. I want to rip that up. I want to put sanctions on the country and this Muslim ban and all this madness. And then Trump comes out and says, do you think we're innocent? But what does that mean? And his supporters, of course, they'll do cartwheels now. They'll be doing somersaults, cartwheels. This is proof he's anti-establishment, he's anti-system. What it means, I think, is that Trump is like George W. Bush 2.0. He's a smarter and possibly a more arrogant version of George W. Bush. And he's inclined to say whatever comes into his mind without giving any thoughts to the consequences of what he says. But it doesn't mean he's any less controlled than these people. Of course, O'Reilly just moved right on. When you see the interview in full, he moved right on. A decent presenter would go after that. What do you mean we're not innocent? And let Trump list out the crimes of the US government over the years. But he won't do. He's an enemy of the CIA. No, he's not, because if he was, he'd be telling you about the CIA involvement in supplying ISIS with the trucks, with the equipment, the bombs and the guns that ISIS used in Syria. These are extraordinary stuff. It all sounds good. I'm sure Alex Jones will have a field day with that one. But ultimately, Trump is going after Russia via the back door of Iran. Quick break, very quick break. When I come back, I'll read your tweets. And then I want to talk about the attack, allegedly, at the Louvre Museum. I hope she's not listening to that. I'm the worst in the world at pronouncing things. The Louvre Museum in Paris on Friday. Back in a minute.
Do not risk putting another pound in your bank account until you've heard this message. It's Jim Rickards here, best-selling author of Currency Wars and The Death of Money. But today I'm urging you to claim a free copy of my brand new book, The Road to Ruin. Visit theroadtoruin.co.uk for full details now. Inside, I uncover the financial elite's secret ICE-9 plan to take full control of your hard-earned cash. To see how, visit theroadtoruin.co.uk right away. It's not too late to prepare. Claim your free copy at theroadtoruin.co.uk today.
Looking to arrange a mortgage? Confused by all the deals available? Let Manchester Mortgages do the work for you. Take advantage of our free mortgage review offer throughout February and March and see if we can save you money. We are whole of market brokers with access to hundreds of mortgage schemes across the UK. Call us on 0161 706 0242 or go to manchestermortgages.co.uk. Your home may be repossessed if you do not keep up repayments on your mortgage. Manchester Mortgages are a trading style of Mortgages for You North West Limited, who are authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority.
There's a place high in the mountains of Spain, a sanctuary where souls gather from all around the globe to learn about themselves and experience powerful changes in the way we see our world. They become awakened to their gifts and their power to heal others. Become part of this ever-growing worldwide family of unique, pure energy healing practitioners. Discover how amazing you truly are. Go to www.markbayerski.com. It could just change your life forever.
Richie Allen.
Welcome back, Sunday View. It's exactly, is it 14 minutes to the top of the hour? It's, no, it's more like 16 minutes to the top of the hour. I thought I'd be finished by now. I always aim for 40, 45 minutes, but anyway, there you go. Spirit Samba says you're spot on about Trump, Richie, the controlled puppet. Sue says, Richie, if any other nation had been so openly racist, they would have had troops at their door, but it's okay for the US and Israel. Stephen tweets that he was at the anti-Trump rally yesterday in Albert Square. There was quite a crowd, says Stephen. He went on to say, I'm seriously beginning to think it might be Israel that was running the US election and not Russia. That's, yeah, absolutely right. Catherine says, how you doing, Catherine? It's only the media that has said that it's a Muslim ban. Well, Catherine, obviously the Trump administration is never going to use the word Muslim and ban in the same sentence. But the implications of the visa ban are for countries where people are predominantly Muslim. And of course, to Joe Redneck, okay, who's been driven mad by the injustices and the tyrannies of previous US governments and is being led to believe that all of his problems are because of immigrants. That's who they're speaking to with that sort of rhetoric and that sort of nonsense. See previous, not you, Catherine, but for other people who might be new to this programme, see previous shows before assuming that I'm a bleeding heart liberal who wants to open the doors to everybody. Never said that, ever. Complicated stuff this, it ain't black and white. Complicated because the genuine lunatic Wahhabi jihadists have been enabled by the intelligence agencies of the United States. This is the irony. This is the madness of it. That's why when Trump says, we're killers, we're not innocent. If O'Reilly was a journalist, if he was me, he'd be like, what do you mean, Donald? What have we done? But it's not going to happen. Now, Friday's attack at the Louvre, I'm going to say the Louvre Museum. I'm going to read you from the BBC. Now, you know by now that a man was injured. He was shot by a soldier. He was of Egyptian descent. He was shot, and apparently he was going to carry out a machete attack. And he's in custody. People were kept in the museum for a while. Then they were released. Big panic, massive panic, covered all over the media on Friday. Now, the BBC writes today that the father of a man shot by a French soldier as he carried out a machete attack at the Louvre in Paris says his son is not a terrorist. Retired Egyptian Police General Reda al-Hamani accused the soldier who shot his son of using brute force with a poor young man. The French authorities say Abdullah, his son, 29, that would be, of course, Abdullah al-Hamami. He was shot when he attacked the soldiers, injuring one of them. The soldier said he shouted, Allahu Akbar, the Islamic phrase, God is great. A French police source said Abdullah Hamami was no longer in a critical condition, but he was still unable to communicate and couldn't be questioned. That's the story. President Francois Hollande praised the soldiers' actions, saying they had prevented an attack whose terrorist nature leaves little doubt. His father is saying, no way. Now, when they found his bag, the bag had spray paint in it and a couple of machetes. No explosives. No explosive whatsoever. Now, to quote his father says, this is a cover-up so that they don't have to apologise or justify the acts of the soldier who used brute force with a poor young man. He's in Dakalia in Egypt. So, the incident apparently happened at the entrance of an underground shopping centre leading to the Louvre. Hundreds of visitors were inside the museum. Some were evacuated. They were all evacuated at the time. Wait for it. Armed police and soldiers patrolled the site on Saturday as tourists lined up to gain entrance. The guards on patrol outside the museum were just some of the thousands of troops lining the streets as part of the stepped-up response to a series of attacks in France in recent years. And that, dear listener, is the payoff, right? Because Paris has been under martial law for nearly 2 years. Thousands of troops line the streets of Paris, day in, day out. It is an experiment. It is an experiment. It's a reminder to Parisians. What happened with the young man at the Louvre on Friday was a reminder to Parisians that it's a bloody good thing the soldiers are there. Also, the French are in the middle of their general election. And some of the anti-EU parties and the anti-immigration parties are doing well. So this is a reminder. Terrorists are trying to kill you. We need to have these troops on the streets. And I don't know if this is true, but I wonder if in recent weeks there were calls for the troops to be redeployed. I mean, were civil liberties groups in France trying to get the troops out, saying this is wrong. It's wrong that we have the army on the streets. Right? I wonder. I must do a little bit of research. Because the timing of this attack is amazing. And, let's be honest, it's a dreadfully inept, pathetic attack. The guy was wearing jeans, trainers, an Italian soccer jersey, and he arrives at the Louvre Museum and he's shot with a machine gun. He's alleged to have ran towards soldiers armed to the teeth with a machete. It's plausible, is it? And as you heard there, his family they're just incredulous. His family are like, what? No. Don't give me that House Angel Street Devil bollocks. I'm not buying it. Any patsy will do, eh? Eh? Any patsy will do. Somebody must have said, we need to shoot a young Muslim to prevent a terror attack. Any patsy will do. Unbelievable. November 2015, 130 people killed by so-called Islamic State suicide bombers and gunmen. January 2015, so it is 2 years, the Charlie Hebdo magazine attack, 17 people dead. The lorry ploughing into Bastille Day celebrations in Nice on the 14th of July last year. All of this going on, we have to have troops on the streets. Now, on protecting us from terror, the Metropolitan Police Commissioner Bernard Hogan Howe, he's the outgoing commissioner. He's about to leave the job. He was on the BBC today speaking with Andrew Marr. And some of this is interesting, not all interesting, but some of it is. This is Bernard Hogan Howe speaking with Andrew Marr earlier today.
On your watch, apart from the terrible killing of Lee Rigby, it's been relatively quiet on the terrorism front. What's your message to people watching? I think it's still a severe level of threat officially. How worried are you?
Well, first of all, I think we should be proud of what we've achieved so far. You look in Western Europe, sadly in France, Belgium, now Germany, we've seen terrorist attacks get through. And if you think about what happened in November 2015 in Paris, 130 people murdered, 200 badly injured. This is what it looks like if they get through. What you've got to have, and I think we have in this country, is an excellent security service. And also, I would argue, the best in the world partnership between the security service and the police.
You're
there is
working
nowhere
much more
as
closely
strong
with MI5 than you used to, is that right?
We do, and I think you see since 7/7, you also see that we have counter-terrorist unit networks across the country. It's a fantastic network. The Met leads that network. What that gives you is links into our communities. What that means is people tell us stuff. The second thing is to have the links in with the security service, our links abroad, and the combined power of that, I think, is immense. And I wouldn't say this if I didn't mean it, Andrew. It's the best in the world. And you will see the Israelis will acknowledge it, and so will the Americans, and so will Western Europe.
And so will Western Europe. So what did you feel, what did you think when you saw the Prime Minister put security cooperation, intelligence cooperation on the table as part of the Brexit negotiation?
Well, I think the political decision to leave Europe is not for me. What I believe will happen in the future is it will be a neutral effect, really, on security cooperation. I genuinely think that Europe and the rest of the world needs the support of the security services in the UK. There is more joint benefit in sharing information with the French and Belgians. No one wants our terrorists to go there, nor theirs to come here. So nobody's going to sit on their laurels and say, I tell you what, some fine MOU between us says we're not going to share data. We will share intelligence, and we will keep people safe.
He mentioned Lee Rigby there and the 7th of July bombings, 2005. I was living in Manchester at the time. This is my second stint in the city. And he said counter-terrorism is the best in the world in the UK, and that Brexit wouldn't stop or shouldn't stop intelligence sharing. As the terror threat level remains that severe in the UK, I've said this a million times before, it's pure Orwell, people living by colour-coded terror charts, living in fear, better not go out today. Better not go to London for the weekend. They're expecting a terrorist attack there. And before we talk about terrorism, false flags, and this bizarre so-called attack on Friday at the Louvre, let me just read a few more tweets, because I don't want to miss out on reading the tweets. Kim tweets, Kim, good morning. I'd just like to see Trump drop even less bombs than the 26,000 plus dropped last year under Obama. Here's hoping, says Kim. Thanks, Kim. Hi to Stevie D, by the way. Stephen Lash came back to say, if it was really about safety, the Saudi Arabians would be on that list as well. It's a great point as well, because 17 of the hijackers on 9/11 were supposedly Saudi Arabian. We know the real truth about that, of course. Sue agrees with my analysis of the Louvre attack. Spirit Samba says, problem, reaction, solution, another false flag to further the agenda. Angela tweets, thanks for your insights, Richie. Good show. Thanks, Angela. Appreciate that. Kate came back to tweet, our security service is the best in the world. Somehow, considering the government cuts, I doubt it, says Kate. Now, I used to do this a lot on the television show. Not for a long time. Officially, on the 7th of July 2005, it was a Thursday. I was in Manchester at the time. I remember the hysteria, even in Manchester, Birmingham as well, other big cities, Leeds, there was hysteria. The official account of the 7th of July is very simple. 4 Islamist extremists, separately, not together, but separately detonated 3 bombs in very quick succession on London Underground trains across the city. And later, a double-decker bus was blown up. 52 people were killed and 700 were injured. More than 700. It remains the worst terrorist incident in Britain, or the worst one since the Pan Am Flight 103 explosion over Lockerbie in Scotland. And it was considered to be, and is officially, the first Islamist suicide attack in the UK. Now, what I've come to believe, and in no small part down to the brilliant investigative journalism by Nick Collerstrom and a book he wrote called Terror on the Tube, what I came to believe is that the 4 men, and their names are Hasib Hussain, Mohammed Sadiq Khan, Jermaine Lindsay and Shehzad Tanweer, I believe those 4 are the most innocent, God love them, patsies that we've ever seen in the United Kingdom. They never did it. They never did it. In fact, they couldn't have done it. I believe they were part of the drill that was going on that day, and they were blown to pieces by British intelligence agents. And I'll tell you why they were. They were blown to pieces because the public were against the war in Iraq. They were against the wholesale slaughter of Iraqi men, women and children, and Afghan men, women and children, Afghanis. And the 7th of July, in my opinion, and nobody agrees with me amongst my close circle of friends, the 7th of July attack is the definitive false flag attack. It is the false flag where there is overwhelming proof, beyond a reasonable doubt, not circumstantial evidence, but proof of security services involvement. And I'm going to play you something that some of you have heard before, but I know some of you won't have. And every time I play this clip, I've not played it now for over a year, but every time I play it, I get emails from people and they can't believe it. It's the Peter Power interview. Peter Power was a crisis management specialist, and he sought out ITV News on the day of the 7th of July, on the day, while they were still identifying bodies. Peter Power went on ITN News to say he was running a drill at exactly the same stations as the attacks took place. Peter Power has never been asked to testify under oath about the events of the 7th of July. This is why this is definitive proof that the 7th of July was a false flag attack where British men and women were murdered by agents of their government. Listen to Peter Power.
Today we were running an exercise for a company, bearing in mind I'm now in the private sector, and we sat everybody down in the city, 1,000 people involved in the whole organisation, but the crisis team, and the most peculiar thing was we based our scenario on the simultaneous attacks on the Underground and mainline station. So we had to suddenly switch an exercise from fictional to real. And one of the first things is, get that bureau number. When you have a list of people missing, tell them. And so it took a long time.
Just to get this right, you were actually working today on an exercise that envisioned virtually this scenario.
Almost precisely. I was up until 2 o'clock this morning because it's our job, my own company, Visor Consultants. We specialise in helping people to get their crisis management response. How do you jump from slow time thinking to quick time doing? And we chose a scenario with their assistance which is based on a terrorist attack because they're very close to a property occupied by Jewish businessmen. They're in the city, and there are more American banks in the city than there are in the whole of New York. A logical thing to do. And I've still got the...
I was going to say, how extraordinary today must feel for you as it unfolds.
How extraordinary the day must feel, says the presenter, and he then goes on to talk about Republican terrorist attacks in Britain over the years. The presenter had a producer screaming in his ear, telling him to move on swiftly. I know this. So Peter Power wasn't in on it. Presumably he was bemused because he sought out the TV company. Now, maybe he was in on it, but I don't think he was. Utterly bizarre. In exactly the same stations, the same scenario was playing out as a drill. Those four men, Shehzad Tanweer, Jermaine Lindsay, Mohammed Sadiq Khan and Hasib Hussain were murdered, along with the 52 other people and the 700 who were injured by agents of the British government. It's the world we live in. So when you see Friday at the Louvre in Paris, to me, that smacks of somebody in French intelligence saying, I'm typing as I'm talking here because some of you are asking me for the link to Peter Power. I'll put it online for you. It's very straightforward. Somebody in French intelligence, somebody at the very highest levels of French intelligence, was basically asked to find a young man, to shoot him, and to make a claim that he was attacking tourists or he was attacking the French soldiers. It is as easy as that. As easy as that. Let's look at the computer. Who's come into the country in the last few days? Ahmed, he's here on holiday. Or Hasib is here on holiday. Lovely. Just shoot him. Put a couple of things in his backpack. Claim it to be an Islamic State-inspired terrorist attack. People are scared, and the people acquiesce to Paris continuing to be in a state of martial law, because that's what it is. That's what's coming to a town or a street near you as well. Look, I'm out of here. That was Sunday View. Thank you so much for giving it your attention. I appreciate it. I really do. I only do it because you listen to it. I've got a terrific show lined up for you tomorrow. Judith Curry is on the show. She's an academic in America. We're going to talk about climate science. And Eileen Webb is going to be on as well to talk about whistleblowing, compassion and care. That's Monday's show, which is live from 8 p.m. at GMT on Monday. This programme has been produced, edited and introduced by me, Richie Allen. It'll be on YouTube real soon, and the podcast will be online in about 15 minutes' time. Thanks for listening to it. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Look after yourself. Chill out a bit. Get out and smell the flowers. Get out and smell the roses. Get out and smell well, there's no roses, is there? The daffodils. Get out and spend a bit of time outdoors. Get away from the computer. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks again. Bye now. Bye for now.
Broadcasting the information the mainstream media won't touch. This is The Richie Allen Show in association with DavidIke.com.